The woman nobody saw. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Monarch Fashion House, casting golden shadows across the design studio floor. Jasmine Reed arrived early, as she always did, carrying her leather portfolio close to her chest. The delicate silk veil covering her face shimmered softly in the light, a barrier between her and a world that had learned to judge too quickly. She had worn it for 8 years now, ever since the fire that changed everything. The accident at her college dormitory had left faint scars across her left cheek and neck, marks that told a story of survival. But to Jasmine, the veil meant more than hiding physical scars. It was armor against the cruelty she had faced, the whispers and stares that made her feel like something broken rather than someone beautiful. Whispers in the hallway walking through the corridors of Monarch Fashion House felt like navigating a minefield. Jasmine kept her eyes down, focusing on the marble floors beneath her feet. Behind her, she heard the familiar giggles of her coworkers. "There goes the ghost again," Brittany from marketing whispered loud enough for Jasmine to hear. "I wonder what she's hiding under there. Probably something horrible." Trevor from accounting joined in with a cruel laugh. "Maybe she's not even real. Just a phantom who leaves sketches overnight." Jasmine's fingers tightened around her portfolio, but she kept walking. She had learned long ago that responding only made things worse. Her work would speak for itself. It had to. The design studio was her sanctuary. Here, surrounded by fabrics, sketches, and dress forms, she could forget the outside world. Her fingers moved across paper with practiced grace, creating designs that merged classical elegance with modern innovation. Each line told a story. Each curve held emotion. The new beginning 3 weeks ago. Everything at Monarch Fashion House had changed. The company, struggling under old management, had been purchased by billionaire entrepreneur Ryan Blackwell. At 34, Ryan had built an empire from nothing, turning failing businesses into thriving ventures. His reputation preceded him as someone ruthless in business, but fair in judgment. His arrival had sent shockwaves through the company. Employees worried about their jobs, wondering who would survive the inevitable restructuring. Jasmine worried too, but differently. She worried that her talent might not be enough. Someone decided her appearance made her unmarketable. Ryan Blackwell was everything the business magazines described. Tall, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples, he carried himself with quiet confidence. His tailored suits spoke of wealth. But his eyes held something deeper, an intelligence that seemed to see through pretense. During his first week, he walked through every department, observing rather than announcing changes. When he reached the design studio, his gaze had lingered on Jasmine's workspace. She felt his eyes on her sketches, studying the evening gown design she had been perfecting for months. "These are exceptional," he had said simply, his voice low and genuine. Jasmine had looked up, startled. Through her veil, she could see him clearly, the way his expression held no mockery, only appreciation. "Thank you, sir," she had whispered. He nodded once and moved on, but something in that brief exchange stayed with her. For the first time in years, someone had seen her work before seeing her veil. The presentation disastered the monthly. Design presentation arrived with its usual stress. All designers had to showcase their latest concepts to the executive team. Jasmine had prepared meticulously, creating a collection inspired by Phoenix mythology, birth, transformation, and beauty rising from ashes. The conference room felt suffocating. 20 people sat around the long table, including Ryan at the head. Jasmine stood at the presentation screen, her hands slightly trembling as she clicked through her designs. "As you can see," she explained, her voice soft but steady, "this collection represents transformation. Each piece tells a story of renewal." Her designs were stunning. Evening gowns with ember-colored gradients, cocktail dresses with feather-light layers that seemed to float, accessories that caught light like flames. The room was silent, and for a moment, Jasmine felt hope. Then Natasha Pierce, the senior designer who had always resented Jasmine's talent, spoke up. "It's hard to take fashion advice from someone who hides behind fabric every day. How can you design for confident women when you clearly have none yourself? Gasps echoed around the room. Several people looked uncomfortable, but others smirked, enjoying the drama. Jasmine felt heat rising in her cheeks beneath the veil, humiliation washing over her. "It's completely inappropriate," someone muttered. But the damage was done. Jasmine gathered her materials with shaking hands, ready to flee. Then Ryan's voice cut through the tension like steel. "Pierce, collect your belongings. You're suspended pending review?" His tone was arctic, leaving no room for argument. Natasha's face turned white. "But design is about vision and skill, not about tearing others down to hide your own inadequacies." Ryan stood, his presence commanding the room. "This meeting is adjourned. Ms. Reed, please remain." The unexpected ally as the room emptied, Jasmine stood frozen, unsure what would happen next. Ryan approached slowly, his expression softer now that they were alone. "I apologize for what happened," he said quietly. "That behavior has no place here." Jasmine nodded, not trusting her voice. Tears threatened behind her veil, but she refused to let them fall. "Your designs are remarkable," Ryan continued, moving to examine her presentation boards more closely. "This Phoenix collection, it's not just fashion. It's art with meaning." "That's rare. Thank you," Jasmine managed, surprised by his genuine interest. Ryan turned to face her, maintaining respectful distance. "I've been reviewing all the design portfolios since I arrived. Yours stands out consistently. You have something most designers never achieve: the ability to make people feel something through clothing." The compliment caught her off guard. In 8 years at Monarch Fashion House, no executive had ever praised her so directly. "I'd like to offer you an opportunity," Ryan said. "I'm planning a complete rebrand for the company, launching with a flagship collection at Fashion Week next spring. I want you to lead the design team." Jasmine's breath caught. "Me? But I'm not even a senior designer. Titles mean nothing if they're not earned." "Your work has earned this." Ryan's eyes held steady conviction. "But I need to know if you're interested. It would mean long hours, high pressure, and working closely with me on the vision." Part of Jasmine wanted to refuse, to retreat to her safe corner of the studio where expectations were low and disappointment couldn't reach her. But another part, the part that still dreamed despite everything, whispered that this might be her only chance. "I'm interested," she said, her voice stronger than before. Ryan smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his usually serious face. "Good, we start tomorrow. And Ms. Reed, the veil is your choice, always. But know that your talent speaks far louder than any fabric ever could." The shift that evening, Jasmine stayed late in the studio, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. The opportunity Ryan offered was everything she had worked toward, but it also meant stepping further into the spotlight she had spent years avoiding. She stood before the mirror in the corner of the studio, something she rarely did. Slowly, she lifted the edge of her veil, looking at her reflection fully for the first time in months. The scars were there, faint lines that traveled from her left cheekbone down her neck. But so were her eyes, dark and determined. So were her features, delicate and strong. "Maybe," she whispered to her reflection, "maybe it's time to stop hiding." The next morning, Jasmine arrived to find her workspace had been moved to a larger studio with better lighting and more space. A note in Ryan's handwriting sat on the new desk, "For the artist who will change everything." Ryan appeared in the doorway moments later, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I wasn't sure how you'd take it, so I brought both cream and sugar." "Black is fine," Jasmine said, accepting the cup with a small smile. "Tell me about your vision," Ryan said, settling into a chair across from her. "When you think about this rebrand, what do you see?" Jasmine hesitated, then began to speak. The words came slowly at first, then faster as confidence built. She described designs that celebrated different types of beauty, fashion that empowered rather than excluded, pieces that told stories of strength and survival. Ryan listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed he understood not just fashion, but the deeper meaning behind her ideas. As morning turned to afternoon, Jasmine realized she hadn't felt this excited about design in years. "You're brilliant," Ryan said simply when she finished, "and I'm going to make sure the whole world sees it." The growing connection 3 months passed in a whirlwind of creativity and collaboration. Jasmine found herself working alongside Ryan almost daily, their partnership evolving into something neither had anticipated. Late nights in the design studio became routine, with Ryan often staying past midnight to review fabric samples or discuss color palettes. "What do you think about this shade for the evening collection?" Jasmine asked one evening, holding up a swatch of deep burgundy silk that caught the light like wine. Ryan moved closer, examining the fabric thoughtfully. His proximity made Jasmine's heart race in a way she tried to ignore. "It's perfect. It has depth without being overwhelming. You have an incredible eye for this." These moments of quiet collaboration felt different from any professional relationship Jasmine had experienced. Ryan never treated her as less than an equal. He challenged her ideas, pushed her creativity, and celebrated her successes. More importantly, he never once mentioned her veil or treated her appearance as something that needed explanation. The design team had expanded under Jasmine's leadership. She now supervised 6 talented designers, each bringing unique perspectives to the rebrand project. Most treated her with respect, recognizing her exceptional skill. But the office gossip had also grown more vicious. "Whispers and rumors, did you hear?" Brittany's voice carried through the break room where Jasmine had stopped for tea. "The only reason the veiled girl got promoted is because she's sleeping with Mr. Blackwell. It's so obvious." Trevor laughed cruelly. "Of course. What else could it be? She barely talks to anyone. Must be quite the performance behind closed doors." Jasmine's hand trembled, nearly dropping her cup. She had heard variations of this rumor for weeks, but hearing it stated so bluntly still hurt. She left the break room quickly, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. Back in her studio, Jasmine tried to focus on sketches, but the words echoed in her mind. Was that what everyone thought? That her talent meant nothing, that everything she had achieved was simply because of some imagined relationship with Ryan. "You look troubled." Ryan's voice came from the doorway. He had a gift for appearing exactly when she needed someone, though she would never admit it aloud. "It's tired," Jasmine lied. Keeping her eyes on her Escade Spad, Ryan entered the studio, closing the door behind him. "I heard what they said in the break room. The walls in this building are thinner than people realize." Jasmine's shoulders tensed. Of course he had heard. The humiliation felt complete now. "For what it's worth," Ryan continued, his voice gentle, "anyone with eyes can see your promotion was earned 10 times over. Your work speaks for itself. But I know that doesn't stop the hurt. Why do you care?" The question came out sharper than Jasmine intended. "You're the CEO. You could have any designer in the world working for you. Why invest so much time in someone like me?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice held an honesty that surprised her. "Because talent like yours is rare. Because watching you create is like watching someone paint with light. And because I know what it's like to be judged for the wrong reasons." Jasmine looked up, meeting his gaze through her veil. "You're a billionaire. Everyone respects you." "They respect my money," Ryan corrected. "I grew up in foster care. Moved between 12 different homes before I aged out of the system. When I started my first business, investors laughed at the orphan kid who thought he could build something. Every success I've had, people have attributed to luck or ruthlessness, never skill or vision." He paused. "So yes, I understand being underestimated. And I understand what it takes to prove them all wrong." The vulnerability in his admission touched something deep in Jasmine's heart. She had seen Ryan as untouchable, someone whose confidence came from a life of advantages. Knowing he had fought his own battles made him suddenly more human, more real. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing in me." "Always," Ryan replied, and the weight of that single word felt like a promise. The gala disaster. Annual Monarch Fashion House Charity Gala arrived with all the glamour and pressure such events demanded. The city's elite would attend, along with fashion journalists, investors, and industry leaders. Ryan had insisted Jasmine attend as the lead designer for the upcoming rebrand, making her presence at his side both an honor and a source of anxiety. Jasmine chose a gown from her own collection, a flowing creation in midnight blue, with silver embroidery that resembled constellations. Her veil matched perfectly. delicate silver silk that caught the light with every movement. The ballroom of the plaza. Hotel glittered with chandeliers and champagne. Jasmine felt overwhelmed by the crowd, the noise, the constant scrutiny. She stayed close to Ryan, who introduced her to important contacts with genuine pride in his voice. "This is Jasmine Reed, the brilliant designer behind our spring rebrand," he told a group of fashion journalists. "You'll want to remember her name. She's going to change the industry." The journalists asked questions about her inspiration, her process, her vision. For once, people seemed genuinely interested in her work rather than her appearance. Jasmine felt a flutter of hope that maybe, finally, things were changing. Then Natasha Pierce appeared. She had been suspended for 3 months but never officially fired. A decision Ryan had made to avoid potential legal issues. Now she was back, dressed in a deliberately revealing red gown, her eyes sharp with malice. Well, Natasha said loudly enough to draw attention. "If it isn't the veiled wonder and her generous benefactor, tell me, Jasmine, what exactly did you do to earn such favoritism? Or should I ask what you're still doing?" The nearby conversation stopped. Heads turned. Jasmine felt her face burning beneath the veil. Ryan stepped forward, his voice cold as ice. "Miss Pierce, you were invited here as a professional courtesy. If you cannot behave professionally, you'll be escorted out." "Oh, please," Natasha laughed, the sound bitter and cruel. "Everyone here knows the truth. Little Miss Mysterious couldn't design her way out of a paper bag. She's just clever enough to use her tragic story and whatever else she's got to manipulate a lonely billionaire." The crowd gasped. Some looked scandalized, others intrigued by the drama. Jasmine wanted to disappear, to vanish into the floor. Natasha wasn't finished. Emboldened by champagne and jealousy, she reached out and grabbed Jasmine's veil. "Let's see what's really underneath all this mystery. Let's see what's worth a promotion." It's the moment of truth. Everything happened in slow motion. Natasha yanked the veil away, the delicate silk tearing in her fingers. Jasmine gasped, her hands flying up instinctively to cover her face. But it was too late. The crowd fell silent, staring. Jasmine stood frozen, completely exposed for the first time in 8 years. Her scars were visible, the faint lines that ran from her cheekbone down her neck, silvery in the chandelier light. But so was everything else. Her features, delicate and striking. Her eyes wide and dark, filled with vulnerability and fear. Her beauty, undeniable, even with the marks of her past. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Ryan stepped between Jasmine and the crowd, removing his jacket and gently placing it over her shoulders. His voice, when he spoke, carried through the silent ballroom with absolute authority. "Security, please escort Ms. Pierce from the building. She's no longer welcome at any Monarch Fashion House event." He turned to face the crowd, his arm protective around Jasmine's trembling shoulders. "As for the rest of you, if you came here to judge someone's worth by their appearance rather than their accomplishments, you're at the wrong event. Jasmine Reed is the most talented designer I've ever had the privilege of working with. Her collection will launch at Fashion Week, and it will be extraordinary not because of who she knows, but because of who she is." Photographers' cameras flashed, capturing the moment. Some guests looked ashamed, others moved. But Jasmine barely registered any of it. She was shaking, her breath coming in short gasps. The exposure feeling like standing naked in a storm. "Come with me," Ryan said quietly, guiding her toward a private side room away from the gawking crowd, breaking down and building up, in the quiet of the empty room. Jasmine finally broke. 8 years of holding everything together, of being strong and invisible, of pretending the cruelty didn't hurt, it all came crashing down. She sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face, her hands covering the scars she had protected for so long. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "I can't go back out there." Everyone saw. Everyone knows now. Ryan knelt in front of her, his hands gently taking hers away from her face. "Look at me," he said softly. "Jasmine, look at me." She raised her eyes to meet his, expecting pity or discomfort. Instead, she saw something that took her breath away: admiration, tenderness, and something deeper that made her heart skip. Do you know what they saw when that veil came off? Ryan asked. Not your scars. Your strength. Your beauty. Your courage. Yes, you have marks from your past, but they don't define you. They're just part of your story, and your story is incredible. But everyone will talk, Jasmine whispered. The rumors, the gossip, let them talk. Ryan's voice was fierce now. Let them say whatever they want. Because tomorrow, when the photos from tonight hit the media, they're not going to see a scandal. They're going to see a brilliant designer who survived tragedy and created art from ashes. They're going to see someone brave enough to stand in front of the world without hiding. I didn't have a choice, Jasmine said bitterly. No, not tonight. But you have a choice now. Ryan stood, offering his hand. You can hide in here, let Natasha and everyone like her win. Or you can walk back into that ballroom with your head held high and show them exactly who Jasmine Reed is. Jasmine stared at his outstretched hand. Everything in her screamed to run, to grab her things and disappear. But Ryan's words echoed in her mind. Her story was incredible. She had survived. She had created art from ashes. Slowly, she placed her hand in his and stood. No more veil, she asked, her voice small. Not unless you want it, Ryan said. But I hope you don't. The world needs to see you as you are. They returned to the ballroom together. Conversations paused as they entered, but this time felt different. Instead of cruel whispers, Jasmine heard murmurs of appreciation. Several people approached to apologize for Natasha's behavior, to compliment her courage, to ask about her designs. A prominent fashion journalist, Claire Morrison, approached with genuine warmth in her expression. Ms. Reed, I'd love to feature your story in Vogue. Not about tonight's drama, but about your journey as a designer, your vision for the rebrand. The world needs to hear your voice. The confession late that night, after the gala ended, Ryan drove Jasmine home. The city lights blurred past the car windows as they sat in comfortable silence. When they reached her apartment building, neither moved to leave immediately. Thank you, Jasmine said quietly. For everything tonight, for defending me, for believing in me. You don't need to thank me for telling the truth. Ryan turned to face her, his expression serious. Jasmine, I need to tell you something, and I need you to know I mean it with complete sincerity. Her heart began to race. What is it? These past 3 months working with you have been the best of my life. Not because of the business success or the designs, though those are exceptional. Because of you. He took a breath. I know people gossip about us. I know they assume things. But the truth is, I wish those rumors were real. I've fallen for you, Jasmine. For your talent, your kindness, your strength. For the way you see beauty in everything. For who you are when the whole world is watching and when no one else is around. Jasmine felt tears forming again. But these were different. Ryan, you don't have to say anything, he interrupted gently. I know tonight was traumatic. I know you need time. I just needed you to know that when I look at you, I don't see scars or veils or anything else. I see someone extraordinary who makes me want to be better. The vulnerability in his confession broke through the last of Jasmine's defenses. She realized that somewhere between late-night design sessions and quiet conversations, she had fallen for him too. For his integrity, his vision, his unwavering support. For the way he saw her as a whole person, not a tragedy or a mystery. I see you too, she whispered. And what I see is someone kind and brilliant who believes in second chances. Someone who makes me feel brave enough to stop hiding. Ryan smiled, the expression transforming his usually serious face. Does this mean I can take you to dinner? A real date, not a working dinner? Jasmine laughed, the sound light and genuine. Yes, but maybe somewhere quiet, at least for the first one. Anywhere you want, Ryan promised. As Jasmine entered her apartment that night, she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. For the first time in 8 years, her face was completely bare, scars and all. And for the first time, she didn't immediately look away. Maybe, she thought, this is what freedom feels like. The morning after Jasmine woke to her phone buzzing relentlessly. For a moment, she considered ignoring it. burrowing back under the covers to hide from whatever storm last night's gala had created. But hiding was the old Jasmine. The new version, the one who had faced a ballroom full of people without her veil needed to face. Whatever came next, she grabbed her phone and immediately gasped. Her face was everywhere. The photos from the gala had gone viral overnight. Images of her exposed face, of Ryan's protective stance, of the moment her veil was torn away. But the headlines weren't what she expected. Instead of mockery or scandal, they read, "Fashion designer's powerful moment of courage. Beauty beyond scars. Jasmine Reed's inspiring story. Billionaire CEO defends designer against workplace bullying." Her phone rang. It was Ryan. "Good morning." His voice came through, warm and concerned. "How are you holding up?" "I'm all over the internet," Jasmine said, still scrolling through article after article. "I know. My PR team has been monitoring it since 4 this morning. Jasmine, it's overwhelmingly positive. People are inspired by you. They're calling you brave, talking about redefining beauty standards in fashion." He paused. "How do you feel about that?" Jasmine sat on her bed, processing this unexpected turn. "I feel terrified and hopeful at the same time." "Is that possible?" "Absolutely." She could hear the smile in Ryan's voice. "Listen, I know we talked about a quiet dinner, but something's come up. Fashion Week organizers called. They want to move your collection to the opening night slot, the most prestigious position. They want your story to launch the entire week." The magnitude of this hit Jasmine like a wave. Opening night of Fashion Week was reserved for the biggest names in fashion. The designers whose work set the tone for the entire industry. That's impossible. I'm nobody. You're the designer everyone wants to see right now. You're the story that matters. Ryan's voice grew more serious. "But I won't push you. This is your choice. We can stick with our original midweek slot if you prefer. No pressure." Jasmine thought about everything she had overcome: the fire, the years of hiding, the cruelty, last night's humiliation turned triumph. If she could survive all of that, maybe she could handle this too. "Let's do it," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Let's show them what we've built." 6 weeks to Fashion Week, the studio transformed into a controlled chaos of creativity. Jasmine's team worked around the clock, perfecting every detail of the collection. The Phoenix theme had evolved into something even more powerful, a celebration of transformation, resilience, and finding beauty in survival. The collection featured 7 signature pieces, each representing a different stage of rebirth. The opening gown was designed in shades of ash and charcoal, representing destruction. Each subsequent piece grew brighter, incorporating fiery oranges, deep reds, and finally brilliant golds. Symbolizing the Phoenix rising renewed, Ryan was present for every fitting, every fabric decision, every moment of doubt. Their relationship had deepened beyond professional partnership into something both couldn't deny. Stolen moments between work turned into lingering touches, shared glances that spoke volumes, conversations that stretched past midnight. One evening, with just 3 weeks until Fashion Week, Jasmine stood before a full-length mirror wearing the collection's centerpiece, the final Phoenix gown. It was a masterpiece of gold and amber silk that seemed to glow from within, with hand-embroidered feathers that caught light with every movement. "It's perfect," Ryan breathed from behind her. "You're perfect." Jasmine turned to face him, no veil between them anymore. She had stopped wearing it entirely after the gala, finding freedom in visibility. "I'm scared. What if people don't understand what we're trying to say? What if they just see another fashion collection?" Ryan stepped closer, his hands gently cupping her face. "They'll understand because you'll make them feel it. That's your gift, Jasmine. You don't just design clothes, you tell stories that touch people's souls. When did you become such a poet?" she teased, though tears glistened in her eyes. "When I fell in love with an artist who sees beauty everywhere," Ryan replied. Then he kissed her. It was their first kiss, tender and full of promise. When they parted, Jasmine realized she was smiling wider than she had in years. "I love you too," she whispered. "Even though office romances are probably against company policy," Ryan laughed. "I'll fire myself if necessary. You're worth it." The interview that changed everything. 2 weeks before Fashion Week, Claire Morrison's Vogue feature published. The article, titled Rising from Ashes, Jasmine Reed's Journey from Tragedy to Triumph, went viral within hours. Claire had captured Jasmine's story with sensitivity and power. The article discussed the fire that killed Jasmine's parents, her years of hiding behind the veil, the workplace discrimination she had faced, and finally, her emergence as one of fashion's most exciting new voices. But it wasn't a tragedy. Peace It was a celebration of survival, its creativity, and refusing to let the world define your worth. The response overwhelmed Jasmine. Her email flooded with messages from people sharing their own stories of survival, of hiding parts of themselves, of finding courage to be seen. Young designers reached out for advice. Burned survivors thanked her for representation. Parents of children with visible differences wrote about how Jasmine's story gave their families hope. "Look at this," Jasmine said to Ryan one evening, reading through messages. "A 15-year-old girl with facial scars says she went to school without makeup for the first time because of my story." "Ryan, we're actually making a difference." "You're making a difference," Ryan corrected gently. "This is your impact, your courage inspiring others." But Jasmine shook her head. "No, it's ours. I couldn't have done any of this without you believing in me first. You saw me when I was invisible to everyone else." Ryan pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "You were never invisible. You were just waiting for the right moment to shine." Fashion Week, the opening night, the night of Fashion Week, arrived with all the pressure and glamour Jasmine had dreamed of and feared. The venue was packed with fashion's elite designers, models, celebrities, journalists, and industry leaders from around the world. Cameras flashed constantly, capturing every moment. Backstage was controlled chaos. Models rushed between stations for hair, makeup, and final fittings. Jasmine's team made last-minute adjustments while she tried to keep her breathing steady. This was at the moment that would define her career. Ryan found her in the chaos, looking striking in a tailored black suit. "How are you feeling?" "Like I might throw up or pass out or both," Jasmine admitted. He smiled, taking her hands. "Remember what you told me when we designed this collection? You said fashion should tell stories that matter, that make people feel something beyond just wanting to look beautiful. That's what you've created. Trust it. Trust yourself."
Act.
The stage manager called for places. The show was about to begin. The show that stopped the world. The lights dimmed. Music swelled, a haunting melody that Jasmine had commissioned specifically for this collection. Mixing classical strings with modern electronic elements, the audience fell silent, anticipation thick in the air. The first model appeared. Wearing the opening piece, the ash and charcoal gown representing destruction. The audience murmured appreciatively as she glided down the runway. Then came the second piece, slightly brighter, showing the first sparks of renewal. With each new design, the collection grew more brilliant, more hopeful, more alive. The clothing told a story without words, of pain transformed into strength, of darkness giving way to light, of beauty that existed not despite scars, but because of them. The audience was mesmerized. Cameras flashed continuously, capturing every detail. Fashion editors leaned forward in their seats, already composing mental reviews. Celebrities whispered in awe. Then came the finale. 7 models walked out together, wearing the complete collection in sequence, creating a visual representation of transformation. The effect was breathtaking, living phoenix displayed through fashion. The audience erupted in applause, many people rising to their feet. But Jasmine had one more surprise. She stepped onto the runway herself, wearing the centerpiece phoenix gown. The audience gasped. It was unprecedented for the designer to walk their own show, especially a newcomer. But Jasmine had decided this was her moment to fully claim her story. She walked slowly, confidently, her scarred face visible to every camera, every eye in the room. She was done hiding, done apologizing for existing, done letting fear control her life. The standing ovation that followed was deafening. People weren't just applauding the designs, they were celebrating courage, resilience, and the powerful message of self-acceptance. Tears streamed down faces throughout the audience. Photographers captured what would become one of the most iconic moments in Fashion Week history. Ryan met her as she came off stage. wrapping her in his arms. "You did it. You absolutely did it." "We did it," Jasmine corrected, laughing and crying simultaneously. The aftermath and new beginning. Reviews were unanimous. Jasmine's collection was the triumph of Fashion Week. Major retailers fought for the rights to carry her designs. Vogue, Elle, and Harper's Bazaar all wanted cover stories. Invitations poured in for collaborations, speaking engagements, and design opportunities. But the most meaningful responses came from ordinary people. Social media exploded with people sharing their own stories of overcoming judgment, of learning to love their differences, of finding courage to be seen. The hashtag Phoenix Collection trended worldwide for 3 days. Jasmine's designs became symbols of a larger movement, fashion that celebrated all bodies, all faces, all stories. She used her new platform to advocate for inclusivity in the fashion industry, partnering with organizations supporting burn survivors and people with visible differences. 6 months after Fashion Week, Monarch Fashion House launched a new initiative, the Phoenix Program, providing scholarships and mentorship for aspiring designers from underrepresented backgrounds. Jasmine personally oversaw the program, determined to create opportunities for others who might feel invisible. The proposal one evening, a year after the gala that changed everything. Ryan took Jasmine back to the design studio where their journey had begun. He had decorated it with candles and photographs documenting their story images from that first meeting. Late-night work sessions, the gala Fashion Week, and countless moments in between. "What's all this?" Jasmine asked, overwhelmed by the romantic gesture. "This is where I fell in love with you," Ryan said simply. "Right here, watching you create magic from fabric and thread, watching you pour your heart into every design, watching you slowly stop hiding and start believing in yourself." He took her hands, his eyes never leaving hers. "Jasmine Reed, you've transformed not just fashion, but me. You've taught me that real beauty lies in authenticity, that strength comes from vulnerability, and that love means seeing someone completely and cherishing every part of their story." Ryan dropped to one knee, producing a ring box. Inside was a stunning ring featuring a phoenix design in gold and diamonds, a piece he had commissioned from a jewelry designer specifically for this moment. "Will you marry me? Will you continue this incredible journey together, creating not just beautiful fashion, but a beautiful life?" Jasmine's tears flowed freely, but they were tears of joy. Yes, 1,000 times yes. As Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her, Jasmine reflected on how far she had come. From the scared woman hiding behind a veil to someone confident enough to be fully seen. From believing she was broken to understanding that her scars were part of her beauty, not despite them but because they told her story of survival. Epilogue. The legacy, 5 years later. Jasmine stood at the entrance of the Jasmine Reed Design Institute, a fashion school she had founded to nurture emerging talent regardless of background, appearance, or traditional industry standards. The building's entrance featured a sculpture of a phoenix, representing the Institute's core belief: everyone has the power to transform, to rise, to create beauty from their unique experiences. Ryan stood beside her, now her husband and business partner. Together they had built an empire not on exploitation or exclusivity, but on celebrating diversity and empowering artists who might otherwise never get their chance. "Ready for the grand opening?" Ryan asked, squeezing her hand. Jasmine smiled, looking at the crowd-gathered students, press, supporters, and some of the same people who had once mocked her at Monarch Fashion House. Natasha Pierce had even sent a letter of apology and congratulations, having spent years in therapy dealing with her own insecurities that had manifested as cruelty. "More than ready," Jasmine replied, as she cut the ribbon and welcomed the first class of students. She thought about the girl who used to hide behind a veil, believing she needed to make herself smaller to survive. That girl would never have imagined this future, not the success, not the love, not the impact. But she had learned the most important truth. You don't find your worth in how others see you. You find it in how you see yourself, in the courage to be authentic, and in the strength to keep creating even when the world tells you to hide. The phoenix had risen, and she had brought countless others with her, teaching them that their scars, their differences, Their unique stories weren't obstacles to overcome, they were their greatest strengths, waiting to take flight.